Thanks everyone for coming to us and joining us here at Ignite the Tour. My name is Eugene Lin. I'm a program manager on the OneDrive and SharePoint team. Work back at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington, US. And I'm really thrilled to be here, to be back here in Amsterdam. This is awesome. It's great to get to come out here on tour and see everyone out here. By show of hands, was anyone in Orlando by any chance? I mean, I was, obviously, but okay. All right, great. Well, I'm really glad that we get a chance to share some of this content with you. As you know, this is it's a lot of the content that we had in Orlando, just organized differently, really compressed a lot. So I have quite a few demos to show and a lot of content here. This session is called Architecting Teamwork. It's Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. I'm really going to be focusing around content collaboration beyond files. This is working with content in SharePoint, and I'll be showing you how that comes out in Microsoft Teams. I'll also walk through Microsoft Teams integration with OneDrive as well. This is a 200-level talk, and so it's really intended for audiences that are familiar with the basics of OneDrive and SharePoint. We really are going to be highlighting a lot of the integration with Teams and the integration with SharePoint and OneDrive. And so hopefully that's what you came here to see. So over the next hour or so, I'll start with some context around how we view teamwork in Office 365. Then I'll explore teamwork use cases beyond files, in particular SharePoint news, lists, and pages. I'll give you an overview of how you can govern Office 365 groups in your organization by walking you through some examples of how Microsoft IT organizes our usage of groups. And then finally, I'll finish by showing you how Microsoft Teams brings it all together into one secure location to get all of your teamwork done. I'm hoping also to leave some time at the end for questions. For those of you who were just in my previous talk, I'm sorry for being so rushed on time. So hopefully we'll have time, come up here, ask questions, and otherwise you can find me at the hub at the Microsoft booth. So the nature of teamwork today is incredibly diverse. Teams come in all shapes and sizes. They can be 2 people or 2,000 people. Projects can last for 2 days or 2 years. Microsoft 365 is designed to be the universal toolkit for getting work done and giving you the right tools for the right task. So to guide customers effectively, we often refer to an inner loop and an outer loop. The inner loop are the people that you actively work with on a day-to-day basis on high-velocity projects and core deliverables inside and outside of your organization. In those cases, Microsoft Teams is an ideal tool. It lets you work together and collaborate and stay tightly connected on project updates and changes as they happen. A person's outer loop are the people they might not work with regularly, but with whom they share some common interest or goal. In these cases, Yammer is the ideal tool for openly sharing expertise or information and to ideate across the organization. For example, within Microsoft, we use Yammer for people to reach out with questions about OneDrive or about SharePoint in a general way. We'll get questions from the field, we'll get questions from other teams, and it's a good way to identify people who are generally interested and have expertise in the topic, whereas we use Teams for almost all of our day-to-day communication, and that is within our team. And of course, if you prefer working in a familiar email-based setting, or if you aren't sure how some discussion is going to develop, Outlook is an ideal way to start the conversation. And at the center of this is SharePoint Content Services and Microsoft Stream. Together, SharePoint and Stream enable collaboration on content so that as you're having those conversations with your team and with your colleagues, that content is available no matter where the conversation starts and allows you to work together on it. Today, we're going to focus on the inner loop, on Microsoft Teams and how it lets you work together with content in SharePoint Content Services. SharePoint Content Services provides enterprise-class security, reliability, and scale for all of your content needs. For administrators, it's important to understand that SharePoint is, as the underpinning of many of our experiences, SharePoint Content Services is the common store where you can manage policy and monitor usage of your content. As an end user, all of that works behind the scenes to power your Microsoft 365 app experiences. So whether you're using Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, all of your content is actually managed and stored in SharePoint Content Services. One of the places we often get questions about is how are OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams related together from an end user perspective? In other words, where am I supposed to put my files? Which one am I supposed to go to do X? I want to provide you an overview of how those things work together to help you get work done. OneDrive lets you access, share, and collaborate on all your files from anywhere. It is the Files app for Microsoft 365. It is File Explorer. It is Finder. It's where you go to get to all of your files. When I say all of your files, I mean in Microsoft 365, every user has an individual library to store their files in, and every team has a shared library to store their files in. Think of it like just you have a drive. The individual library is like your modern day documents folder, except it's backed up and it's available from any device. And the shared library is like the modern day network share. It's a place where your team can put things and get to them from anywhere, and of course it's protected, backed up, and supported by Microsoft's intelligence services. In both cases, the content in a library is only accessible to the owner of the library, whether it's you as an individual or whether it's your team as a group. And you can share content from your library, or your team can share content from its library with other people whenever you want to. To accommodate more complex teamwork scenarios, shared libraries support robust metadata, extensibility, and automation options as well to help you get your work done and stay in line with your organization's best practices. So OneDrive connects you to all of your files, whether they're in your library, whether they're in a Teams shared library, or whether they're in a library that someone else owns that's shared stuff with you. And let me show you how Teams leverages these libraries. So Teams lets you talk and work together with your colleagues on really any kind of teamwork. Teams is the chat-based workspace that gives you a single and secure location with all of the tools your team needs to get work done, including files. And so while teamwork and collaboration involves more than just files, I do want to set some context on how Teams and OneDrive work together. So when you share files in an individual conversation, those go into your individual library. When you share files in a team conversation, those go into the team's shared library. In other words, both Teams and OneDrive put their files in the same place. And so let me give you a quick demo to show you exactly what I mean by that. So I'm going to come over here into the Retail Promotions team. Retail Promotions is where we get our work done. If you were at my previous talk, you saw the website that we use to get things done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in a chat. And I'm having a chat here with my colleague, Alan. So I want to send Alan a file that's just on my computer. So I'm going to go ahead here and I want to send Alan this holiday flyer. So I'm going to go ahead and select that file. And what Teams is going to do is Teams will upload that file and then send it to Alan so that he can see it. And you can see that when I go to the Files tab in Teams for that chat, I can see wait a minute. Maybe I can't see it yet. Well, when I go there, I will see it in a bit. But for now, let me go to OneDrive. So I'm looking at my OneDrive, and you'll see that there's a folder here called Microsoft Teams Chat Files. And here you can see that holiday flyer that I uploaded in Teams is visible here in OneDrive in my individual library. And so you can see that Teams and OneDrive actually work together. All of the files go into the same place. Here I'm going to go into a team conversation. And again, I want to go share some files with my team. So I'm going to go ahead and upload a file. In this case, I'm going to go upload this template. So you'll see that file gets uploaded into Teams so that it's available to my team. And again, we get the question from people saying, well, am I supposed to put it in Teams or am I supposed to put it somewhere else? Well, let me show you. Here, if I go back to OneDrive, you can see that under shared libraries, I can see my Retail Promotions team. Within that team, if I go into its documents, then I can see a folder for every channel in the team. In this case, I uploaded that file into a conversation in the General channel. So I'm going to select General, and you can see here that template that I just uploaded is here in the shared library for that team. And so hopefully that makes it clearer that both OneDrive and Teams put their files into the same place. When I upload a file into Teams, that file goes into the very same libraries that you can see in OneDrive, whether you're working individually in a one-on-one chat or whether you're working in a team conversation. By the way, the same thing is also true for SharePoint team sites. If you upload something into a SharePoint team site, it will show up under shared libraries, and you'll be able to see it there. Now, there is something I want to point out here. I demoed this for you so you can understand what's happening in the product, but end users that live in Microsoft Teams actually don't need to know this. They can just work in Teams and share files, and everything works the way they think it works, and that's fine. It's part of the beauty of our integration. And while we think that it's possible to work entirely out of Teams, we understand that not everybody does. And so for those people who work in OneDrive, for those people who work in SharePoint, I think it's important for them to understand how the apps work so that they don't stress so much about where to put their files, because they're all going in the same place. It's all backed by SharePoint Content Services. And so you don't really need to know all of this, but it's just handy to understand how these things work together. But teamwork isn't just about chats and files. Sometimes, to share and organize information among your team, you may want to create and use intranet sites. To engage your employees, sometimes you want to communicate in a one-to-many fashion by sharing interesting news in a broader fashion. And sometimes you may want to manage your business processes through custom business applications, whether that's through customized lists with metadata or through workflow, through Microsoft Flow. To accomplish these things, SharePoint is your mobile intelligent intranet. It allows you to work together on all of your team's content, whether they're pages or news or lists. I'm going to show you now some of the things that you can do for your team's content in SharePoint. So we're going to start here in the retail promotion site. This is a team site that makes it easy for the people in the retail promotions team to have a place to start to get to all of the resources they need. You can see here interesting news about what's been happening in the team. You can see some quick links to resources that they might want to get. And you can see updates on activity that's happened around their documents so they can catch up with what's going on. Having a team site like this makes it easy for new people joining the team to immediately catch up and get context on everything they need to get their work done. And consolidating your content into a team site also makes it easy to make sure that when people leave the team, they no longer have access to that content. I'm going to start with SharePoint News. So a really common thing that we end up doing is writing up a trip report of something that happened so that the team understands what happened here from Amsterdam. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new news article. You can see that we have templates here that let you create all kinds of interesting news and articles based on things that your organization makes available. I'm just going to choose a blank one here because I just want to make a blank, start with a blank post. And so I'm going to call this, let's say, Ignite Amsterdam. And to start with, I'm just going to write a quick summary. I'm sure you don't want to watch me write the entire summary here, so I'm just going to start with summary. Pretty good. OK, so I want this to be really interesting to my users, because they're not going to read it if it's just a big wall of text. And so I'm going to go choose a background image. And one of the things you can do is we've integrated with Bing Search to make it easy to find imagery that helps you get your message across. So in this case, I think this venue is actually pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and search. Find that picture, I think that looks pretty good, and say, all right. I can now adjust that banner to choose the place that I want it to be. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go change the layout of this heading. I'm going to choose the color block style that I like. And one of the things that I often do is I'll turn on the publish date. So you can see here, people can see when the article is published, so they know whether they're reading something recent or not. So there's a few other things I want to do here, other than obviously write a better summary. I'm going to add a link to the summary to the events public page. So I'm going to copy this link to the Ignite Tour public page, and I'm going to paste it in. And what you'll see is that when I paste it into the news editor, it will actually pull content from that page and generate a preview so that people can see what it is I'm talking about. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to include some imagery from Amsterdam, just to get people a feel of what it was like here, even though they weren't able to join me. So I'm going to choose to add images, And I can add images from anywhere. Again, I can search the web for them. In this case, I've actually uploaded a couple pics from my travels so far to Amsterdam Pics. And so here, I'm just going to go select the images that I want to show, and I choose Open. And this image gallery part automatically lays them out and inserts them into my news posts so that other people can see them and click on them and get and see them in full screen. Finally, I want to thank some of the people who helped me really get this content prepared. And so I'm going to say special thanks to, and this is the people part. This part lets me find people in my directory easily and include them so that I can provide references to people that aren't only names, but allows them to actually click on them and see information about them on the people card, including their office location, things like that. So, I think that looks pretty good to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and save a draft just so I can see what it looks like. And as you can see, the layout is responsive so that if I change window sizes, it will actually lay out correctly. And I can now choose that I want to post that news. When I publish the news, then it becomes available to my team so that when they go look at news, they can go see it. But one of the things I actually wanted to show you is I want to show you what that looks like on mobile. So as you recall, SharePoint is your mobile intelligent intranet. So I want to prove the mobile part here. I'm going to go ahead and go into the SharePoint app. And you can see in the SharePoint app, I can see information about all of the news that's available across my different teams. I can choose Find and actually find the sites that I work with the most often. In this case, I'm going to go to Retail Promotions because that's where I tend to work a lot. And then under Retail Promotions, you can see, again, access to all of those links, activity around my files, documents, all of it laid out in a responsive way so that I can see things as I need them. And of course, I can jump in here and go see news. You can see here at the top the news post that I just published. And even though I published that from my Mac, you'll see that when I open the post here, the post is laid out in a way that is easily consumable on mobile, so I can get to it. And you can see that when I tap on a person, I can come into their people card and see information about them, so I can easily give her a call, reach out to her, see the org chart, everything else. All right here from my phone. This is your mobile intranet available in your pocket in SharePoint. So that was a quick look at SharePoint News. Sorry, I have to write this down. There's so many demos for me to show. So next up, I actually want to show you how do you get people to actually go look at your content. Because when I'm sharing news, there's a lot of things going on. People aren't necessarily going to that homepage and checking every day to see if there's any new content. So I want to show you something. I'm going to come into the Ignite Amsterdam thing. I'm going to hit Promote. What Promote does is it lets me go either add a pointer to the page to that navigation rail on the left or email people. And so in this case, I'm going to go choose to email, and I'm going to choose to email it to my colleague Lydia, and I'm going to say, hey, you're in here, you're in there, and then send it. What that will do is it will craft a mail to Lydia with a pointer to this article so that she can see it. We use Promote sometimes to send news articles to specific people that when we really want to make sure that they're available, that they need to read it. Once Lydia opens this article, she'll also be able to come down to the bottom and do, for example, like the article so that I can get some feedback that someone read it and thought it was useful. You can comment it as well. And so in this case, I can go @mention Alex. And as I start typing Alex, it will find him based on content in the directory. I can choose Alex, you're in there too, and post. What that will do is that will notify Alex that he was mentioned in a comment. He'll be able to come back and see the comment, and we can actually have a discussion here about the article right here within the page. And I can do the same thing whether I'm on the web or whether I'm on my phone on iOS or Android. And so that lets people go work together on a bunch of their stuff. I want to show you something else. So in that case, I actually wrote I wrote the article myself, but sometimes I'll come across things on the web that are really interesting, and it might not be worth me writing an article saying, hey, this is really interesting, and then sticking a link in there. In this case, let's say, for example, the FAQ for Ignite Amsterdam is actually really important, and I want the team to know about it. I could write a news post that has nothing but a link in it and say, please look at this link, but that feels a little bit silly. So what I can do is I can create a new news link. What a news link does is it lets me paste in a link from any page on the net. It will automatically generate content based on the things inside that link and then let me post it. And so now that news post shows up and basically just opens up, instead of to a post, opens up directly to that page so that my team can use that one news feed as a way to know all of the things that are important, whether they were authored within the team or whether they were authored outside of the team. And so that way, when someone wants to catch up on news, they can go to news, they can go say, well, I just want to see all of the things that are interesting, and they can see all of these different posts, whether they were authored by me or pointers to other things on the net. So that was a look at SharePoint News and Sites. SharePoint News is a content distribution system that really works across the spectrum of personal, team, and organizational news. You can view it online with responsive layout. I'll call it natively digital content. It's not pages, it's not simulating paper. It's really designed to be consumed in a way no matter what size screen you're on. You can incorporate content, whether it's pictures, videos, into those news presentations so they're interesting. You can promote your news through email. You can see things on your team's site. And you can also post links to existing articles out there. And then through likes, comments, you can go find out what people are doing with your articles. You can get feedback on it and have conversations about them. It's a really helpful thing. Next up, I want to talk about SharePoint lists. SharePoint lists are another way to help your team organize information and get their work done more effectively. Ooh, that's Windows. Okay. So I'm going to come back here into the retail promotions team. And in this case, I have a list that we're working on, which is a list of retail accounts. This list is the list that we use to keep track of work that's happening in the team. In particular, we have these account managers who have very particular sales targets that they're trying to hit. We have a big holiday display coming up, and we want to make sure that the holiday display is ready in each of these locations with each of these accounts. You'll see that we have metadata here that tracks things like the sales target, the account owner, whether the holiday display is ready or not, as well as the location of that display. You'll also see that we've applied formatting here to that column so that it's easy to see. In case you haven't seen that already, for example, I'm going to take the sales target location, and you can see here that I can do things like group by sales target, so that I can group by different amounts. I can also choose, if I want to filter and say, no, I only care about specific values. That's actually not very interesting to show right now. And because all of this is in SharePoint, I can also filter here based on any of these criteria. If I want to filter by a column that isn't available, I can go ahead and choose that. So for example, the state location isn't available on the filters pane. I can go ahead and say pin to the filters pane, and then you'll see that I can now filter by different states. All of this is here to make sure that I can manage my team's content and present it in a way that really makes sense to the team. For those of you who've used SharePoint lists before, you may have noticed something, which is there's a column here called location, and there's actually a bunch of different columns here called location. This is the first time in a number of years we've added a new column type to SharePoint, and again, based on a lot of feedback from customers. Let me show you how that location column works. I'm going to go create a new account here. We're going to call this Eugene's Awesome Account, and the account manager is demo me, Nestor. My sales target will be 42,000. My holiday display isn't ready. And then location, I'm just going to type Rye, Amsterdam. And what you'll see is that that location resolves into a real-world address. SharePoint is integrated with Bing Maps to understand the location of really anywhere that you can type. If you can find something within Outlook, for example, when you're scheduling a meeting location, you'll find it here. That includes local resources that are available in your directory, like conference rooms. And so I can go ahead and save, and you'll see that that content now shows up here, and I can see it in the list. There's a lot of things I can do here to make it easier to consume this. I can group things by whether it's ready for holiday or not. I can go ahead and filter. I can go move things around to put them in different places, but that doesn't really convey very much like the data that I want to see right away. I can make the font bigger, but that doesn't do very much. So I've shown you some of the formatting that you can do on individual columns by making things, for example, red or green. We also have added row formatting that lets you use simple JSON to really customize the look of each row in your list. And let me show you that here. We've got a customized view of this list, and what you'll see is that this list is now much easier to see. It's really easy for me to see whether something is ready for holiday display or not. You can see that that location column lets us render a thumbnail of that location in a map so that I can more easily absorb where that information is. And we've laid out the location of the accounts and the account manager in a way that better fits the way we represent it in other reports. And so this is an example of how SharePoint lists can be customized so that it doesn't have to look like a big Excel table. You can actually present the data in a way that helps your teams be the most effective while building on top of all of the features of SharePoint, including not only the compliance and protection and reliability, but all of the customization and policy features as well. And down here, you can see Eugene's awesome account is here with the location that is, where we are on the map. And so that's an example of how SharePoint lists make things really easy. I want to show you another example of something you can do with SharePoint lists. In this case, I have a library that contains a bunch of documents in it, business process. And a common thing that people will do, at least that we've observed, is that they'll select something and say, hey, I want to make sure that people are okay with this. I want to go get approval for it. I'm going to go select this file and choose flow. And what you'll see under flow is that there's an option that says request sign-off. This showed up because I selected an item. This isn't something that I've customized in the library. It's not something that I authored in Flow. This is a built-in flow that was automatically added because of the content that I have in my library. When I go ahead and choose to request sign-off, what SharePoint will do is it will automatically let me create a new flow that goes and asks people for sign-off on the file. I'm going to go ahead and create that flow live here so you can see it. Hopefully this connection is fast enough that this will work. Show of hands, how many of you use SharePoint lists? Okay, how many of you have actually gone in and customized and authored things in a SharePoint list, not just enter data? Okay, still a lot, but a smaller number. One of the benefits of SharePoint lists is that you can come in and use it as a team member, and really just, it feels like you're using a custom form or a custom app, but there's a lot of power behind that. In this case, I'm going to say that I want to make sure that my colleagues Lydia and Alex approve this, and I'm going to say, hey team, will you make sure this doesn't have any embarrassing typos, and I misspelled embarrassing. Okay, so I can go ahead and run that flow. What this is going to do is it will go send out a mail to both Lydia and Alex asking them for sign-off on it, along with links that let them choose whether to approve or decline that sign-off. That way, I can save time by not having to go author that mail myself, and they can save time by simply going in and answering a mail rather than doing a bunch of other stuff. One of the other things that I want to show you here, let's see on my list here, one of the other things that I want to show you is SharePoint pages and what you can do with SharePoint pages. In this case, last year we were tracking some of our holiday stuff as well, which is a holiday 2018 promotion. So SharePoint pages allow you to customize how you present data. And again, it's a way to show you the information that's most relevant to you. You can see here that same list of retail accounts, that same SharePoint list, it's pulling from that to show on this page. But when I select one of those accounts, you'll see this information populate here on the right. These are actually separate web parts. This is a map part, this is information about people, and a dive in on some of the metadata. And what you'll see is that as I select different accounts here on this list, those other parts update. We can use these dynamic connectors to actually author pages that connect multiple parts on the page so that the page can be interactive and show your people the data they need without requiring a lot of extra coding and without requiring building a custom app. So that's a look at what you can do with SharePoint lists and with SharePoint pages. SharePoint lists are really, we think of it as like it's a data management system and a view system that lets you take data of any kind and present it in a way that makes the most sense. You can customize columns with column formatting. You can organize with grouping and filtering. And there's actually something else. Wow, so many things to demo. Something else I wanted to show you. If you recall, that retail accounts list, now a lot of people don't start in SharePoint lists. Often lists end up starting from somewhere else. And so here, if I go take a look at my site contents here, you can see there's a lot of different libraries I have, a lot of things. I'm going to create a new list. Of course, I can type the name of a list and go look at it. But I can also create a list from Excel. This allows me to take data that I may have put somewhere else and then realize later on, like, boy, I really actually need to do something more with this list. So in this case, I'm going to choose package data poll results. This is a spreadsheet that we had that had a lot of data from one of the recent polls we ran, but I've decided that I actually want people to be able to come in and edit individual items separately from editing a giant Excel file. What SharePoint is going to do is it will detect all of the different tables in that file and then intelligently guess at what kind of content that is. So you can see here, for example, that for package selection, it's chosen a single line of text. But I actually want that to be a choice that is one of those choices instead. Once I've verified that this is the right kind of content, I can go ahead and name the list and then go create that list right from an Excel file. And so I can take data that I already have and bring the power of SharePoint lists to it. One of the other things that we often see is that this retail accounts list, right, this customized view that I showed you is really awesome. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't write the JSON for this, and I actually don't know how to do that. But I want my list to look like this. And so one of the other things we've enabled is we now enable people to create new lists based on an existing list. In this case, I'm going to choose that I want an existing list. I can choose a list not just from this site, but from any site in my organization. So in this case, I'm going to choose retail promotions, and I'm going to choose retail accounts. And I'm going to call this Eugene's Even Better List. I'm going to go create that. This is now going to create a new list with no content in it that shares all of the same columns, all of the same metadata as that list. So I can now go ahead and say, create a new account called Eugene Land and make it Nestor and have a goal. Say it is ready for holiday display. And then we'll say this is in, let's say Universal Studios Orlando. And you can see that with the power of Bing Maps, it does not find it. Wow, there it is. OK. And then I go hit save, and it found it. And you can see all of the same metadata is there. That formatting that I applied before in the retail accounts column list is there. And that, most importantly, that custom view is there. So now I can say, look at this amazing list I made. And I really didn't even know what I was doing. And so I want to show you quickly how easy it is to go create new lists from either existing Excel files or from existing lists. SharePoint pages. Hello. Click, click, click. SharePoint pages allow you to present information the right way by customizing the layout using web parts, and now web parts that can communicate with each other using dynamic data. And these pages are available from the web, mobile, and of course within Microsoft Teams. And so, in summary, we just saw how SharePoint lets you create intranet sites, share news, and build business applications. So Teams builds on that by bringing it all together. Teams is a hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. In case you're not tired of people saying this, it is a chat-based workspace that enables teams to be more productive by giving them a single and secure location that brings all the tools they need together to get their work done. Teams delivers on 4 core promises to create a digital workspace for high-performing teams. You can communicate either informally in one-on-one or group chats, or you can have open conversation in a channel. You can accelerate decision-making, and you can work together on content. You can also easily change it to a chat or a call if you want a more high-bandwidth conversation. You can collaborate easily because Teams is integrated with Office 365. I'm going to show you some of that integration in a few minutes. You can customize with third-party apps, services, and you can work with confidence knowing that Teams is built on that same solid foundation that the rest of Microsoft 365 is built on. So I want to answer, though, what is a team? A team is a collection of people who gather around a common goal. A team doesn't have to be based on your org chart. We've had some customers say, oh, but I want to create a team, so I created a 20,000 person team with everyone who reports to this VP. It doesn't have to be. A team is really anyone who works together towards some kind of goal to get some work done. And teams leverage shared resources to collaborate and achieve. This concept of shared resources and people talking about those in a conversation is really at the core of how Microsoft 365 is built. No matter which tool your team uses to communicate, whether you're using Teams or Yammer or Outlook, everything begins with a common membership construct called an Office 365 group. Groups act as the connective tissue across all of our applications. A group is basically like a set of people. Think of it as like a mini corporation that you can refer to as one name that's really a set of people. Groups give admins a single focal point for enabling teamwork in a way that matches their org's best practices. I'm going to show you here. Remember this retail promotions team site? Well, creating a SharePoint team site and adding members to it actually created an Office 365 group under the covers. As an admin, I can go into Admin Center and see the list of all of the groups in my organization, including the retail promotions group here. And with a single click, I can see key information about that group, including the owners and members of the group, and I can manage the life cycle of the group. I can go delete the group if I want to, and I can see groups here no matter how they were created, whether the group was created by creating a SharePoint team site, or by creating a Microsoft team, or by creating a Yammer group, or by creating an Outlook group. As an admin, I can see all of the groups that were created here, because all of them are about a set of people who are working together with shared resources. Within the Admin Center, I can also keep track of group creation and usage in my organization. So I can see if groups is being adopted, and I can see which groups are active. We encourage you to monitor usage and get in touch with group owners of particularly active groups to learn about their use cases and amplify that kind of usage internally so that people are getting the benefits that they can get out of using groups. When you're creating a group, one of the choices you'll make is whether the group is private or public. So there it is in SharePoint, and there it is in Microsoft Teams. So let's start with membership. In a public group, anyone can join it. If they find the group, they can go join it. In a private group, owners control membership. They have to either manually add people or approve that they get added to the group. When it comes to SharePoint team sites, in a public group, the entire organization can view the team site, but only members are allowed to edit. But keep in mind that because anyone can join the group anytime, any viewer can become an editor if they choose to join the group. For a private group, on the other hand, both visibility and edit rights are for members only. And only the owner of that group can choose whether other people get added to it or not. For team conversations, whether you're in a private group or in a public group, those conversations are only available and visible to the members of the group. But again, a reminder, because public groups are about people discovering the groups and joining in when they're interested, anyone can join a public group at any time without any approval required. And again, this is really helpful when you have a topic that's of interest. For example, Microsoft Ignite Tour community. We're not going to add everyone in the company to it by default, but we're totally happy to have anyone join it if they're interested in it. And again, for private groups, you have to become a member. One thing to note about these conversations is that when a member joins the group, they have access not only to the conversations in those teams, but they have access to conversations that happened before they joined. This is actually one of the benefits of joining a group over traditional email distribution lists, is that when you add somebody, they're able to go catch up with what's been going on without having to go back and ask what they missed. We offer a lot of tools for managing groups and for governing how people use groups. Administrators can configure groups to match the way their organization works. You can control who can go create groups. You can protect group resources by putting restrictions on who can use them. You can manage group lifecycle by, for example, adding expiration policy and say groups can only live for so long. You can control naming of groups so that it's easy for people to find them and you don't end up with any confusion there. And of course, there's a lot of reporting that lets you see what's been going on with groups. Rather than go into all of that, I'm going to walk through a few examples of how Microsoft IT manages groups. Within Microsoft, we enable any full-time employee of Microsoft to create groups. We want people going and creating new teams. We want people creating sites when they're useful. And we do that by restricting creation to Microsoft employees. Non-employees can't do it. And the way we manage that list of employees is with a dynamic security group. That way, when we hire someone new, we don't have to do extra work to remember to add them to the list of people who are allowed to create groups. The dynamic security group simply pulls from properties in the directory to say anyone who has full-time bit checked can go create a group. We block certain words from being used in the name of groups. In some cases, those words are confusing because they overlap with other things like HR. In some cases, they're otherwise related to HR because they're just not appropriate words for work. I'm going to read all of those words here to you now. Actually, I'm not. That would be a bad idea. But we also control the life cycle of groups. One of the things that we really worry about is that if you give everyone the ability to create new groups, they're just going to create a group for everything. And eventually those groups lose their usefulness. And so to find the right balance between letting people get their work done and having a mess of groups that are unused, we enforce a 180-day group life cycle. That means that as a group owner, after 180 days, I'll get a reminder that says, hey, Eugene, are you still using that retail promotion site? And as long as I say yes, the group continues. And if I don't say anything anymore, the group automatically gets cleaned up. That way, we don't have this buildup of old groups, but it's not that bad to have to reattest every 6 months. And finally, we classify our groups using 3 categories: highly confidential, confidential, and general. Whenever someone goes and creates a new site, they get asked which classification does this apply to, and then we use that classification to set various properties of groups. For example, if you classify a group as highly confidential, you're not allowed to add external users to it. And so we do this by running custom jobs in the background. It also gives our IT team a way of monitoring how groups are getting created and how they're being used without making people choose a lot of different configuration options. So now that I have a set of people that have a common goal, and I have a set of resources that I want to share to get work done, well, what do I do next? Our answer is purple, which is Microsoft Teams. Teams is the place for teamwork. And so I'm going to show you how OneDrive and SharePoint come together in Teams to really enable teams to get their work done in a single and secure location. So I'm going to go here to the retail promotions team. And again, you saw earlier that I was working the retail promotion site on the content for the team. I want to show you how all of that comes together here in Microsoft Teams. So if I come here into the News tab, for example, then you'll see, come on, network. All right, so when I come here to the News tab, then you can see all of the news for the team is available right here within Microsoft Teams. I can go to this tab and I can see all of that content. I can go ahead and view that news post that I just posted. And so again, as a Teams user, I don't have to go separately to the SharePoint site to get to any of this. The news comes right across here because there's a tab here that lets me get to it really easily from within Teams. That retail accounts list I showed you with all of its cool customization is also available right here in Teams. Not only can I see that list exactly as it was in SharePoint, but I can choose between those different view options, just like I did there. I can go group and filter and customize the way that list is displayed. We want to bring all of the power of SharePoint lists into Teams so that you can get your work done in one place and not sacrifice any of the tools that you may be used to using. And of course, that Holiday 2018 page is also available. In this case, I went and created a new tab, added a page, and you can see that I can get to that holiday page here within Teams, and that dynamic data connection also works. I can go click on an item, and I can go see it directly within Teams, and not only that, but I can go have a chat about that page while I'm in Teams. So in this case, I can say something like, isn't it 2019? And when I post that, then people who come look at this page can see that chat. But not only that, because I posted it in the general channel of the team, then you can see that My comment shows up here in the general channel. It says, isn't it 2019? And has a pointer to the content that I was talking about. So that when I click on that, I get taken straight into the conversation so that I can see that conversation and the content that we were talking about. This is one of the ways that we enable people to take that shared content and actually have conversations about it to go move forward and make progress without really having to think about organizing windows and laying things out. One of the other things that I can do in Teams is I can just go work on my files without having to leave Teams. In this case, let's say we want to work on this ad slogan document. I can click on the document and Word Online comes right into Teams. So that I can work on it here within Teams, and I'm able to co-author with other people so that other people can go open this document while I'm here. We can work on it in real time. I can see them typing. We can talk to each other. We can comment on things. Everything works here within Teams. One of the other things that I want to show you is that I'm also able to go look at a bunch of my other content. So here I'm going to go to the Files tab. When I go to the Files tab and go to OneDrive, I'm able to see all of the content that's available in my library. I can easily get to files here, and you can see that when I switch to thumbnail view, I get all 320 plus of those file types all available here, and I can go ahead and I can view all of this stuff within Teams, and I can go open documents, browse, click on content, and see them in preview. In this case, I'm clicking on this Adobe Illustrator file. I can go click on that and view that even though I don't have Adobe Illustrator installed, even though I didn't do anything to configure it in my tenant. It's available because OneDrive, all of OneDrive's support for all of this native content preview is all built into Teams, so that you can get to all of it, whether you're in OneDrive or whether you're in Teams. One of the other things I want to show you is how we've integrated Teams with OneDrive in terms of sharing. So I'm going to come here into this chat with Alan. You'll see that when I inserted that holiday flyer, it says, sorry, you can't read this. It says, anyone with the link can view and edit. That means that this link will now work for anyone who gets it. And that setting, I can change that setting here within Teams. One of the things you'll notice is that the link settings actually show the same options that we saw before, with one exception. You'll notice that there's this option here that says people currently in this chat. That doesn't exist anywhere else. What we saw was that a common thing people would do is say, well, I only want this link to work for Alan. So they click on specific people and they would enter only me and the person I'm in my chat. But that was a little cumbersome because I'm already in the chat. It seems obvious. And so we added this handy shortcut called people currently in this chat that automatically makes the link work for only the people that are in the chat, including you. It's an example of how we're tailoring our UI to fit the environment you're in. And when you're within Microsoft Teams, this sharing UI adapts itself to be appropriate for the scenario you are in Teams. I'm going to show you something else. One of the other benefits of this integration is that it all follows policy. And so in this case, that link was for anyone. That is, anyone can view or edit. But what if I want to change that? I'm here in the OneDrive Admin Center, and I'm going to change my default link type to internal. This is what we do inside Microsoft, by the way, at Microsoft IT. By doing this, I make sure that anytime I share a file from OneDrive, that link only works for people in my organization. I can, of course, change it later on if I want to, but if I don't and I'm not thinking about it, I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm now going to come back to that chat and do exactly what I did before. I'm going to choose to upload a file. I'm going to choose Holiday Flyer V1. And what you'll see is that Teams does almost exactly what it did before, except now the link by default only works for people in my organization. And you can see because I changed that setting, that new setting applies not just to OneDrive and SharePoint and Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, it now applies to Teams as well. So that if you're working in your conversation and just sharing files, you can work confidently knowing that you're not making any mistakes and you're not violating any of your organization's best practices and getting work done. It's really, really handy, and it's a kind of integration that we're working to bring everywhere inside Microsoft 365. One of the other things I wanted to show you is this one. Let me go into my mailbox here. So I'm going to jump out here into my mailbox. One of the things that people commonly do is they'll pick up a message that just got some link that got sent to me randomly, and then just go ahead and copy it and then stick it into a conversation without really thinking about the fact of what is that link, what's it going to do? One of the things that Teams does when you insert a link is it will go look at policy, make sure it will recognize that link as a SharePoint link. It will put in that link and actually configure that link to work based on the defaults for the organization. The other thing that we're working on is that both in chats and in team conversations, when you insert a link that isn't going to work for everyone in the organization, we're going to show you a warning that says, hey, this link might not work for everybody. Do you want to go change it? We've seen people too often complain and say, hey, it's really annoying that I send links that don't work. It's kind of embarrassing. In some cases, I shouldn't have sent the link. And so by showing that warning, we're going to make it easier for you to get your work done within Teams. I was hoping I could show it to you today, but I don't think it's going to be working right now. So that's a look at some of the things in Teams. I'm actually trying to remember some of the other things that have been going on here. But anyway, that's a look at some of the things that we've been doing to bring the power of OneDrive and SharePoint into Microsoft Teams. You can see SharePoint News. Everything you do, everything you post in SharePoint News will show up in SharePoint Teams. In a News tab, you can go author posts directly within Microsoft Teams. SharePoint lists work within Teams. You can add any list you want as tabs within a channel so that your team can get to it. You can switch between views. You get all that rich column formatting and row formatting. SharePoint pages, of course, are available within Teams as well, so that as you're getting your work done, you can get to the resources that you need. You can go in and edit documents as you need. You can preview content within Teams. One of the things that we're also looking to enhance later on is that while you saw that you can see all of your files in SharePoint, in some cases, some of the advanced formatting capabilities may not show up exactly the same in Teams yet. We're working on bringing the exact same control we use in SharePoint into Teams so that it's literally the same code and the same view, so that all of those options are there. And as we add new capabilities, all of them will be available to Teams users as well as to SharePoint and OneDrive users. I showed you how you can co-author on documents in Microsoft Teams in real time. You can use file previews to view anything you can view in OneDrive, you can view within Teams. That sharing experience is something that's available not only in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, and SharePoint, but coming soon to Teams as well. This is going to be on Teams on the web, as well as Teams on desktop and on Mac, and then soon Teams Mobile. The other thing that I didn't show, but is something to be aware of, is, let's say before you came here to the conference, you were like, oh my God, I didn't realize Teams was so amazing, and I created SharePoint sites, just standalone sites. Do I need to start over now and create a team and then move everyone over and add tabs for that site? Well, we're making it easier for you. One of the features that we're rolling out now is the ability to create a team directly from SharePoint. So that if I'm in a SharePoint site that wasn't associated with a team, I can say create a team, and we're going to add all of the goodness of Microsoft Teams on top of the content you already have so that you can go get to it. There's a lot of other content that's available from Ignite. I encourage you to come here and go look through those things. Again, I hope this was a useful talk to you. We really want to emphasize how Teams is a place to get teamwork done, and we're bringing all the power of OneDrive and SharePoint into Teams so that you can get your work done in one single secure location. I want to ask a favor that before you go, please fill out the session evaluation. I love a chance to get out here and engage with all of you and talk. We really want to understand, are you finding this valuable? Do we keep doing this? So please give us your feedback. We really value it. It's useful. Like I said before, as one of the benefits of us doing this tour is that we've been taking feedback from every one of these sessions and actually using it to evolve our content over time, because we want to make sure that we're covering the things that you want us to cover, and we're building the things in the product that you want us to build. And so I really appreciate you coming out here and joining us at Amsterdam. I know it takes a lot of effort to come out here and take time away from your work, time away from your families and friends. And so thank you so much for listening and for joining us. If you have questions either on this or the previous talk, feel free to come up here and ask questions or go to the booth at the hub. But thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the rest of the conference.